Welcome to the second course in our Learning Designers Playbook series, The Psychology of Adult Learning, Principles Every Designer Needs to Know. In our first course, we explored the beginner steps of instructional design. Now we shift focus to the learners themselves. Adults. Understanding how adults learn isn't just theory. It's essential for creating training that works in real-world contexts. You'll learn why adults engage in learning, how prior experiences shape new knowledge, and why autonomy fuels motivation. We'll also look at challenges like time constraints and cognitive overload and how to design around them. Designers who ignore these principles risk creating training that feels irrelevant. Those who embrace them build learning that resonates, earns trust, and drives results. Think of this course as both a framework for understanding adult psychology and a toolbox of strategies you can apply immediately. As you follow along, reflect on your own experiences as an adult learner. What kept you engaged and what made you tune out? This session is about more than knowledge. It's about building the skills to design learner-centered training that truly makes an impact. Let's get started. In this course, our goals are focused and practical. First, you will gain a working understanding of adult learning principles, often referred to as andragogy. These principles stand in contrast to pedagogy, which is more commonly associated with teaching children. Second, we will look at motivation strategies, exploring what drives adults to persist in learning even when they are busy or distracted. Motivation is not a one-size-fits-all factor. It comes in many forms, both internal and external. Third, we will highlight how learners' prior experience can be used as an active resource. Adults don't come to training as blank slates. They bring knowledge, stories, and skills that can make the experience richer if leveraged properly. Fourth, we will emphasize designing learner-centered training. That means putting the learner's needs, goals, and realities at the center of every design decision, rather than simply pushing content. Fifth, we will consider the common challenges adults face when learning, such as limited time, competing priorities, and cognitive overload. By the end of this course, you will not only know what those challenges are, but also how to design around them. Every goal in this session ties back to practical application, so you'll be able to take what you learn here and implement it in your next project. Instructional design isn't just about theory, it's about creating real impact for learners. Keeping these goals in mind as we move forward will help you see how each principle fits into the bigger picture. Think of this course as a toolkit. You're not just learning concepts, you're collecting strategies that you can mix and match to meet different situations. As we move through the material, reflect on your own projects and consider where these principles might apply. By doing so, you'll make the learning stick and prepare yourself to use it effectively in practice. Before we dive into adult learning, let's quickly recap the first video in this series, Instructional Design for Beginners, your first 5 steps. In that course, we introduced the foundational process of instructional design. We began with identifying learning needs because every strong design begins with understanding the problem or gap you are trying to solve. Without this clarity, training risks being irrelevant or ineffective. Next, we talked about defining measurable objectives. Objectives are critical because they act as both a roadmap for the designer and a compass for the learner. We then moved into structuring lessons and storyboarding. This step ensures that content flows logically and builds in a way that makes sense to learners. Once the structure was clear, we focused on creating learning materials that align with objectives and support learner engagement. These could include slides, worksheets, or e-learning modules. The fifth step was implementation, putting your training into practice. Here we emphasize the importance of testing your design in the real world, observing learner reactions, and gathering feedback. Throughout that session, we also shared common beginner mistakes to avoid, such as overloading content or failing to link activities to objectives. The takeaway was that good instructional design starts with solid foundations, clear needs, measurable goals, logical structure, aligned materials, and practical delivery. This recap is important because the principles of adult learning we'll cover today will connect directly to those foundational steps. In other words, what you learned before gives you the how of design, while today's course adds the who by focusing on the learners. Together, they form a powerful combination that will strengthen your instructional design practice. Motivation is at the heart of adult learning. Adults often have strong internal motivations, such as the desire to improve at their jobs, pursue personal growth, or achieve mastery of a skill. These intrinsic motivations are powerful because they are tied to personal goals and values. However, adults are also influenced by extrinsic motivators, like earning certifications, advancing in their careers, or meeting workplace requirements. Both types of motivation can work together, and as instructional designers, we need to recognize and harness them. Relevance is especially important for adults. If training feels disconnected from real tasks, learners are far less likely to stay engaged. When training connects directly to professional or personal goals, motivation increases dramatically. Adults also crave competence. They want to feel capable and successful. Providing feedback and opportunities to demonstrate mastery helps sustain this motivation. Recognition, whether from peers, supervisors, or even self-assessment, also plays a significant role. As a designer, you can create moments that validate learners' progress and celebrate achievements. Motivation is not static. It can rise or fall depending on how the learning experience is designed. By carefully aligning objectives, activities, and feedback with learner goals, you can sustain motivation across the course. Think of motivation as fuel. It powers the learning journey, but the designer must decide whether to ignite it, maintain it, or let it run out. Building training that respects and supports motivation ensures learners stay engaged, persist through challenges, and apply what they've learned beyond the classroom. One of the greatest strengths adult learners bring to the table is their experience. Unlike children, who are often new to subjects, adults arrive with years of professional practice, problem solving, and life skills. This prior knowledge can enrich the learning environment if it is intentionally leveraged. Instructional designers should see experience not as background noise, but as a vital resource. For example, when adults engage in discussions, their stories can make abstract concepts more concrete. Case studies and role plays become more powerful when participants connect them to real-world events they have lived through. Experience also builds confidence. When learners see that new knowledge links to what they already know, they are more willing to engage. At the same time, prior experience can sometimes create barriers if learners bring outdated practices or misconceptions. That's why it is important to design activities that encourage reflection and comparison between old and new approaches. Experience-based learning strategies include peer discussions, group projects, and simulations that mirror workplace challenges. These methods allow learners to apply their background knowledge while also testing new ideas. By valuing experience, you also show respect for learners' identities and capabilities, which fosters trust and engagement. Adults want to feel that their contributions matter, and using experience as a teaching tool accomplishes that. It also improves retention, since linking new information to existing mental frameworks makes memory stronger. In sum, experience is both a bridge and a tool. It connects the known to the unknown and gives learners a foundation on which to build. As an instructional designer, your role is to build experiences that highlight, refine, and expand what learners already know. A central principle of adult learning is self-direction. Adults highly value autonomy and prefer to have control over how they engage with new material. Unlike children, who often expect a teacher to lead them step by step, adults thrive when they can make choices about their learning. This might mean choosing the order of modules, selecting assignments that feel most relevant, or deciding how deeply to explore a topic. Providing this flexibility builds ownership because learners feel they are responsible for shaping their journey. Self-direction also fosters deeper motivation. When learners decide what to focus on, they are more invested in the outcome. However, autonomy doesn't mean leaving learners entirely on their own. Guidance is still essential to ensure they stay aligned with the overall objectives. Think of it as a balance. Too much control from the instructor can feel restrictive, while too little support can leave learners lost. Instructional designers can support self-direction by building branching scenarios, optional activities, or flexible pacing. For example, an online course might allow learners to skip material they already know, while encouraging them to focus on new challenges. Instructors can also encourage learners to set their own goals and reflect on their progress. Adults appreciate when their autonomy is respected because it mirrors the independence they exercise in other parts of life. Self-direction also builds lifelong learning habits, encouraging learners to take initiative beyond the course itself. When adults are trusted to guide their own experience, they often rise to the challenge and engage more meaningfully. For instructional designers, creating structured freedom, clear goals with flexible paths is the most effective way to support self-directed learning. Adult learners face a set of challenges that are very different from those of children or traditional students. One of the most common barriers is time. Many adults juggle careers, family responsibilities, and personal commitments, leaving limited hours for learning. Even when they carve out time, competing responsibilities can easily interrupt their progress. This is why training must respect learners' schedules and be designed to fit into small, manageable segments. Another major challenge is cognitive overload. Adults may already be handling large amounts of information daily, so new content can feel overwhelming if not carefully structured. Overly complex lessons, dense slides, or long lectures risk discouraging learners rather than helping them grow. Stress and fatigue can also reduce their ability to absorb new material. Instructional designers can address these issues by creating flexible, modular content that fits into busy lives. Breaking lessons into shorter, focused segments helps learners engage without feeling burdened. Designers can also provide review tools, summaries, and practice opportunities that reinforce knowledge without requiring extra time. Recognizing these challenges doesn't mean lowering expectations. It means designing training that is realistic, respectful, and effective. Adults want to succeed, but they need support systems that acknowledge their realities. By anticipating these obstacles, you can create training that fits seamlessly into their lives. Ultimately, respecting learners' time, energy, and focus builds trust and makes your training more impactful. Adults often face cognitive challenges when learning new information. Cognitive overload can occur when too much content is presented at once or in complex ways. To prevent this, instructional designers can chunk information into manageable segments, use visuals to simplify concepts, and vary the pace of instruction. Attention spans fluctuate, so including interactive activities or micro-learning breaks helps maintain focus. Minimizing distractions, using clear instructions, and reinforcing key points also support retention. Addressing cognitive challenges ensures that adult learners can process, retain, and apply new knowledge effectively. Relevance is the cornerstone of adult learning. Adults rarely learn just for the sake of learning. They want content that connects directly to their personal or professional goals. As an instructional designer, it is your job to make that connection clear. One powerful tool is the use of case studies. Realistic examples show learners how abstract concepts apply in practical situations. Scenarios also provide context, allowing learners to test decisions in a safe environment. For example, in a leadership training course, you might use a role-play exercise to simulate a workplace conflict. When learners see how their decisions play out, the training feels immediately useful. Relevance also increases retention because adults remember content that has direct meaning in their lives. Highlighting immediate application is especially effective. If learners can use what they've learned the same day on the job, motivation skyrockets. Aligning training with learner goals is equally important. Adults often come into training with specific outcomes in mind, whether it's earning a certification, improving skills, or advancing their careers. By acknowledging these goals, you show respect for their investment of time and energy. Instructional designers can ensure relevance by conducting needs assessments and learner surveys before building courses. These tools reveal what learners value most, allowing you to tailor training accordingly. In short, relevance transforms training from an obligation into an opportunity. It keeps learners engaged, motivated, and confident that their efforts are worthwhile. Respect is one of the most powerful motivators for adult learners. Adults want to feel that their knowledge, perspectives, and experiences are valued. As an instructional designer, you must create spaces where learners are treated as equals rather than passive recipients of information. One way to do this is by encouraging discussion. Adults often learn best when they can exchange ideas with peers. Discussion groups, forums, or classroom conversations give learners a voice and validate their contributions. Collaboration also enriches the learning process because it exposes learners to diverse perspectives. When participants share stories from different backgrounds, everyone benefits from a broader understanding. Respect also means designing activities that acknowledge learners' expertise. For instance, asking participants to solve real-world problems together draws directly on their strengths. It also shifts the role of the instructor from authority figure to facilitator. Adults appreciate when their autonomy is acknowledged and when they feel they are co-creators in the learning process. Collaboration fosters community, which in turn increases motivation and engagement. Respectful design also reduces resistance. Learners are less defensive when they feel included and valued. This principle applies in both in-person and online learning environments. Creating a collaborative culture makes training more interactive, enjoyable, and meaningful. Ultimately, respect is not just about politeness. It is about recognizing learners as capable, knowledgeable individuals. By fostering respect and collaboration, instructional designers can build learning environments that inspire growth and confidence. Application is where learning truly comes alive for adult learners. Adults are not satisfied with abstract theories alone. They want to know how knowledge translates into real-world action. That is why practice is such a critical component of adult learning design. Practice allows learners to rehearse new skills, test their understanding, and make mistakes in a safe environment. Mistakes are not failures. They are learning opportunities that deepen comprehension. Application also builds confidence as learners see themselves successfully using new skills. This bridge between theory and reality ensures that knowledge sticks beyond the classroom. Case-based exercises, simulations, and role plays are excellent ways to support application. These activities allow learners to apply knowledge in realistic contexts while still receiving feedback. Practice also fosters problem solving, since learners are required to adapt concepts to unique situations. Reflection should always accompany practice, giving learners the chance to process what they did well and what they can improve. Without reflection, practice risks becoming repetition rather than growth. Instructional designers can enhance practice opportunities by designing iterative activities where learners refine their skills over time. Adults thrive when they can connect new knowledge to tasks they already perform. Practice also increases motivation because it shows learners immediate benefits for their investment. Real-world application is one of the strongest indicators of successful training. By prioritizing practice and reflection, you ensure your learning designs result in lasting skill development. For deeper understanding of adult learning, Make It Stick. The Science of Successful Learning is an invaluable resource. This book bridges cognitive psychology and practical instructional strategies, offering evidence-based approaches to help learners retain and apply knowledge. It explains why traditional study methods often fail and provides alternative techniques that work for adults in professional settings. Instructional designers can use insights from this book to structure lessons, reinforce content, and design activities that enhance memory and skill transfer. Applying these principles improves engagement, effectiveness, and learner confidence. The examples, case studies, and techniques make it highly practical for anyone creating adult-focused training programs. Let's take a moment to recap the main lessons from this session. First, we established that adult learners bring a wealth of experience into every learning situation. This experience is not baggage. It is an asset that should be acknowledged and integrated into the design. Second, we emphasize the critical role of motivation. Adults are not motivated by grades or external rewards in the same way children are. Instead, they seek relevance, growth, and application to their daily lives. Third, we explored the importance of self-direction. Adults value autonomy and prefer to shape their own learning paths, which means instructional designers must build flexibility and choice into their programs. Fourth, we examine the challenges adults face, including limited time, competing responsibilities, and cognitive overload. Respecting these realities means designing training that is flexible, digestible, and efficient. Fifth, we highlighted strategies to overcome these challenges, such as modular design, reflective practice, and opportunities for immediate application. We also discussed the importance of relevance, ensuring that training connects to real-world needs and goals. Respect and collaboration were additional themes, as adults thrive in environments where their voices are valued. Finally, we reinforced the importance of practice and reflection as tools for long-term retention. Taken together, these principles create a framework for designing learning that is not only effective, but also deeply meaningful. The key is to always remember that adults learn best when their time, knowledge, and autonomy are respected. To summarize, adult learning highlights the unique ways adults engage with and retain information. They bring prior knowledge, skills, and perspectives that shape how they interpret new content. Instructional design must adapt to these differences rather than follow child-focused approaches. Motivation is central. Relevance and real-world application drive engagement. Respect matters too. Adults need their experiences valued and their time honored. Effective design supports autonomy through flexible paths, addresses challenges like time limits and overload with modular lessons, and ensures knowledge transfer through practice and application. Collaboration enriches learning by drawing on diverse perspectives, while safe spaces allow adults to experiment and grow. Ultimately, instructional designers should design with lifelong growth in mind. The principles of motivation, self-direction, relevance, respect, and application transform training into meaningful experiences that inspire lasting impact. As you move forward, consider how these principles can shape your projects. Each design is a chance to honor learners' time, value their experiences, and support their growth. In doing so, you become more than a designer. You become a partner in the learning journey. Our next course will compare andragogy with pedagogy, showing when to apply each framework. Be sure to join us for that discussion, and meanwhile, reflect on today's key ideas and how you can apply them right away.